It's our second master's program. So our first one was 2 months ago, and it was a huge success. We had some incredible speakers. Super excited for this batch because I think we have some phenomenal speakers, and I'm honored to have the first speaker session and share my journey so far, my vision for what we're doing, and if anyone has any questions or thoughts, excited to see how we can discuss those. So I suppose in terms of the vision for Unit, the why or the rationale behind why we're doing it is really to create a more cooperative stakeholder economy. And what does that really mean? It's about creating an economy where everyone is able to benefit from the success and the value being created. So I guess if you look at a simple example, like we're all using this service Zoom, and Zoom has done extremely well, this year with the amount of people organizing meetups and events, but none of that value created has gone to the event organizers, the people that have used this tool to organize conferences and events, or to the millions of users around the world who, without them, none of this value could have been attributed for. So in terms of what is Unit focused on, we're trying to create a cooperative stakeholder economy, one where the customers and the employees are represented alongside the people who start companies and the people who invest in them. And I can start with my background. So I'm half Singaporean, half British. I've been building different apps and websites for the past 12, 13 years. I started building apps which I felt were fun to build and solved a problem for myself. So I built a number of simple apps for the iPhone and Android device in 2008, 2009 when the iPhone came out. And I thought, wow, this platform is something that can really support communication and really do lots of good with communication. And part of that was I was also fortunate to work on the WikiLeaks app, which is my introduction to Bitcoin and digital assets. After that, I started one of the most popular social networks in the UK. I'm excited to talk about that in this session. Thank you for having me. In terms of my journey from how I started. So I grew up in Singapore 27 years ago, and have always been interested in building apps and websites because I think technology is something that can do so much good in terms of helping people and solve problems. And I've been fortunate in the sense to have some amazing parents and friends who have supported in my personal development as well as my different projects. One of my first projects was a video conferencing app very similar to Zoom. And how it started was I was very interested in encrypted peer-to-peer video conferencing, or the idea that most technologies use a central server. So if you think about most websites or most apps, they usually interact, they depend on companies, or they depend on an organization which they're trusting, and all of that data is flowing through this company. And why I was excited about building peer-to-peer technology is because I thought, hey, wouldn't it be super cool if you could have a call with someone else and it wasn't it was fully encrypted and there wasn't a need to go through a central party. So I launched that in 2010, and between 2010 and 2014, it grew to have 3.5 million users, and I sold that. Between then, I also worked on the Android app for WikiLeaks. So I was very passionate about transparency, and I'm very passionate about transparency and offering a way for governments and for basically truth to prevail. And I was also an Android developer, so I built the Android app. And what happened while I was working with WikiLeaks was the government froze our visa donations, our MasterCard donations, our PayPal, our bank account. So that was when we started using Bitcoin. And Bitcoin in 2010 was something which was super new in the sense that people thought it was this this project that was a bit illegal, that it's going to be shut down in 12 months. WikiLeaks is using it. It was very popular on the Silk Road for people buying illicit substances. And I think it's very much the same today, in the sense that people are thinking, oh my gosh, when are the government's going to step in and shut this whole thing down? But what I'm really excited for is for this future of digital currency and digital tokens and assets to show how this global society can be much more efficient and fair. So fundamentally, what's driving Unit Ventures and the technology and network that we're building is creating a more fair society. And I guess, like, what is a fair society? We believe that it's one which is much more transparent, where instead of trusting, the governments or corporations or companies or people to do good or take care of you, it's one where it's just not possible for them not to do it. So if a company or an organization or us as Unit have a set of rules or are governed in a certain way, a lot of internet companies will say, let's get lots of users. And then when we get lots of users, we're going to put advertisements or we're going to start charging for it. And I think one really exciting thing about the blockchain or about tokens is that it's just not possible to grow a big user base, get trust of users, and then basically turn your back and say, hey, I'm sorry, guys, we want to make money from this, and we've just used you so that we can make money. So that's really one nice thing. And like, for instance, when I sold my video conferencing app, I did quite well financially, but none of the people that used it, that helped me grow it, that publicized, we had two main buttons, share on Facebook, share on Twitter, and that sort of drove a lot of the viral growth for the platform. None of those people that evangelized the product and helped benefit from its success captured any of that value. So part of what Unit is focused on is creating a world where if I opened a restaurant or someone opened a small business or even a large business, a small business that becomes a large business, all the different stakeholders are able to benefit. And like, even if I wanted to reward, let's say when I sold my video conferencing app, or when the mobile apps, which I was running, became quite successful, and I wanted to reward the people who helped me create that value, it was very difficult until the concept of tokens and the blockchain. So I think why we live in such an exciting point of time now, and I think why things like Unit and projects that are using tokens are really going to revolutionize and change the world, is because it's going to redefine value. So when the internet, when the mobile phone came out, people were thinking like smartphones are new. Like Nokia has been making smartphones, BlackBerry had been making smartphones, and I guess what the mobile phone really revolutionized was the way people communicate and share information. And what they did was they provided, like, the App Store, the Play Store and the App Store, a way for different people to create on top of this platform. And I think the really exciting, cool thing about blockchains is they allow for people with an idea, with a concept, to create a token, and then provide like a way of deciding how this token operates, or like what are the rules behind it, and a fair way for people to govern. Like, I was also fortunate to work at the third biggest investment venture fund in Europe in 2014. And like, we would get thousands of people pitching and investment decks coming in, and we would invest in maybe like 5 to 10 companies a year. So, it's really, really difficult for people to raise money or to fundraise for their projects. And I think one thing that's super cool about tokens and blockchain is it really democratizes access to financing, and it provides a way for not just people to support a project like a crowdfunding campaign and hope that they get a product, but really have a vested stake in that project succeeding, and in a very transparent way. Because the way most crowdfunding campaigns work at the moment is where you chip in and you support a project, and then in the best case scenario you get a project. So like, I supported the Oculus campaign for the Oculus VR set, and Facebook bought it for over $1 billion. And like, someone like myself and the other people, like the 3,000 people were essential for helping make the project a success, but we didn't benefit from any of the value being created. It was just the founders of the project and the investors who gave them get money after the fan base and supporters supported them. So yeah, in terms of what we're building with Unit, it's really trying to create a very fair cooperative society, and one where the people are being represented. So yeah, if there's any questions on this, I'd love to touch on that, or whatever anyone's interested in speaking about. One really nice experience also that I've benefited from when I was working at this fund in London in 2013, the head of the fund, Eric Archambault, he's one of the top entrepreneurs and investors in Europe, told me about this thing called the Founders Forum. And I thought, I was like, what's it? He said he was going to this thing called the Founders Forum. I was like, wow, this sounds amazing. Like I Googled it, and it was for basically the top tech entrepreneurs in the world. To be invited, you need to have started a company worth $500 million. And everyone there is like the founder of Instagram, the person behind Skype, the people, like we start the biggest technology companies in the world, which I think are actually more influential for society than even government, like political leaders. Right? If you see what happened this week with Trump and Twitter and Facebook, like the people who are like leading the technology companies, they have so much influence over society. And so in 2013, I heard about this conference. I was like, wow, it's my dream to someday attend it. And then the following year, this was 2013 June, like it's held every June, the Founders Forum just outside of London. In 2014 June, I was told that the event was happening. Someone asked me if I was going to this event because I was running a social network, which is one that's most popular in the UK, and it had this concept of hot or not. Like you basically get someone on the platform, and then you go and hot or not, and very similar to Tinder, we would connect the people if you found hot, and if you found them attractive and they found you attractive, we matched you. And with a friend asked me, the founder of this company called Badu, Andre, he said, "Are you going to this event?" And I was like, "No," but I've heard about it. And the following day, Eric rang me up and said, "Hey, this event, the Founders Forum is happening." And I asked him, like, where was it? He said it was at the Grove Hotel just outside London. So I took a train up to where it was, about an hour outside London. I wore a smart suit and some shoes and basically sneaked into it. And then I was like, wow, this event is super amazing. And then in 2015, the following year, through a series of coincidences and good luck, I managed to work with them. So I had the honor to rebuild their systems and really understand how community building works. I guess the most well-known business event in the world is the World Economic Forum. Like it brings together the top business leaders. Like the Founders Forum is the equivalent for technology. So it gets like every single super high-profile technology leader there. And I had the opportunity to rebuild their system and really understand like how they've managed to build such a community. And I thought, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if all these super influential, powerful people with a limited amount of money and influence over society were not just focused on making more money and building the next product, but actually focus on doing good. And I guess part of the motivation for like all of us as the co-founders and the community and the core team of Unit is to see how we can build up a community like through this master's program, working with all of us here, as well as we're doing 3 major conferences this year. We're doing a World Community Forum, which is like the World Economic Forum for the leading community builders. We're doing the World Unit Forum, which is basically getting industry leaders of the different industries that we're focused on. And then the World Token Forum, which is getting the people that are pioneering this new shift in the blockchain and tokens to share their perspective on where they think that we can improve on like moving the space forward. Because like in 2010, like when 2009, when Bitcoin came out, people thought that, like it would go away. And some people thought like the governments will shut it down in a year. And then there was another group of people who said in 5 years time, everyone will be using Bitcoin. And now we're 10 years from that. And now people are like big companies, big funds are starting to invest in Bitcoin, but people aren't really using it. People are like if you ask like 10 people, maybe 2 would say I actually hold some Bitcoin. So I think what we're going to experience in the next year and 2 years is like people are actually going to hold Bitcoin. And I really hope that what we can drive forward with Unit is getting people to start earning it and getting people to start spending it, and then creating an economy where it's much more cooperative, where everyone basically has a stake in one another. And I think part of this Unit Master program, really excited to see how we can share the many principles of the blockchain, of this future cooperative economy, as well as provide a way for people to issue tokens for small projects or businesses, or even themselves as individuals. So yeah.
Michael, you're back. Okay, maybe you want to share with us, along your journey, you worked with many different communities, right? And each of the communities, the WikiLeaks community, then the tech community, the social networks community, all of them had a different vision, a different community maybe, and what you learned from it, and then what are you taking away from it? What went well, what did not go so well, and what are you integrating into Unit?
Definitely. So I guess one really strong point with WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, I haven't met him personally, but was very in touch with online. And the thing about the way he led the organization made it very much about himself, in the sense that he was kind of the forefront of it. He was the face of it. Everyone, including all the people who were kind of working hard on pushing it forward, were just seen as like foot soldiers, or kind of people that make pushing this person forward. So for instance, I met Vitalik Buterin through the Thiel Foundation in 2015, and also in 2000, became friends with him. And I basically told him, when you build up Ethereum, one thing you have to be mindful of is the founder of Ethereum is that really try and lead from behind. The problem with leading from the front is then people think that it's really being driven by ego, or the face of it is the person that people are doing it because of the leader or the dictator that's pushing it forward. And I think one thing that was really nice about Ethereum, the way Vitalik has kind of pushed the Ethereum project, is he's really allowed for many different people to emerge and lead it forward. The other cool thing about the Founders Forum and WikiLeaks and Ethereum is really the why. For instance, Simon Sinek talks about the why, or the motivation behind building these things. I think with WikiLeaks, it was super, super clear. Before, let's say, Snowden spoke about the prison project, people, if they said that the government's spying on you or tracking you, people were like, this person's crazy, or the government wouldn't do that. And then when it was all exposed, it's everyone took it, just took it for granted. I think having a reason why, this community, or why it exists, is really nice. The thing about the working at the Founders Forum, I was super thrilled. When I had the opportunity to work with them, I was like, wow, I believe in destiny, or how's it possible that in 2 years, I dreamt of someday attending this event. The following year, I serendipitously managed to sneak into it. And in the third year, I'm rebuilding the systems. It's amazing. But then, I remember there was a period of time, going into the office and building it for them, where I really lost motivation. And part of that was the person running it. And I also mentioned to him, Henry, he was also had a really strong ego in terms of putting down people. And I think it's so important when you work with a team to really try and give an opportunity for people to shine and to support them. So for instance, I built a side project for the Founders Forum, which was a networking tool. And he actually allocated a big amount of budget to a project called, I can't remember the name, this was 6 years ago, a big project. And I built something on the side, which was actually much more effective. And he referred to what I built as a pet project, or a side project. And I was a bit disappointed because it actually worked much better than what he was put in a bunch of time, resources. And I think it's so important to have a bit of humility when leading something, or when driving it forward, just because if you don't, then people that you work with are not going to enjoy working with you, and become very frustrated. Because I was always the earliest into the office, and I would leave at 9 p.m. I was working 7 days a week, and I was super motivated. And when I felt underappreciated and kind of a bit demeaned in the sense that, I was 22 and I was working with a bunch of super talented people who went to Oxford and Cambridge. I didn't go to university. And I was thinking, wow, it's amazing that I have the opportunity to work with these people. I mean, granted, I was also running a social network. Cool. Is it better now? Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the Founders Forum community, I think it was super amazing because of how well curated it was. So part of the thesis of the curation was that you need to have started a $500 million company and only one founder per company. So even, let's say, 3 people or 4 people started a company, there could be only one representative that attends their summit or event. So I remember having conversations with the founder of Skype, Nicholas Zenstrom, and he would be sharing with myself and like the founder of Instagram about how the name Skype came out. I remember he was saying that we couldn't get this domain. They meant to call it Skype Peer, P-E-R, and then they dropped the E-R and they called it Skype. Just things like this and strong insight. So part of my excitement behind this this master's program is because we're really at the early stage of something which I hope we can together grow it to really redefine education. Like I was also fortunate enough to have amazing education in Singapore and the UK, and my father also taught me a lot, and close friends. And I think so many people, they could just do with a little bit of mentorship and guidance. Like if I knew maybe a few people that I know now, and I could have just gone to them for advice or had a bit more of a friend circle, I think that would have allowed me to develop that faster on a personal level and professionally too. So.
And Michael, maybe share with us a little bit, what is, for yourself, the most effective way to approach learning a new topic? You learned and engaged in so many different industries. How did you go ahead to become leading in any of these?
Thank you. I think the key is really to have an end goal, like a motivation, and then to kind of strive towards that. And people might say that, this goal is crazy, or you shouldn't do it. And then as long as you just have this goal or vision, and then for instance, uniting people or uniting friends towards that goal. So an example, in 2016, I had just left London. I wasn't super fit because I wasn't working out. I was working 7 days a week. I was also partying a lot. And I thought, one of my dreams or goals is to do an Ironman. So I signed up for an Ironman in 2017, and I hadn't run a marathon before. So an Ironman, you swim for 4 kilometers, you cycle 180 kilometers, and you run 42. And I guess this was a big audacious goal as a challenge. And having that goal and working towards that allowed me to sort of, become, to learn much quicker. So I guess an answer to your question, is to really have a vision or a goal and then working towards that. So if let's say someone wants to learn guitar or someone wants to be a fashion designer, think of that one dream or that one, 3 things that, this would be what I'm working towards. And if you have those 3 things that you're kind of striving towards, then, the universe would just magically guide you then, people would support you. And that's why I remember listening to Steve Jobs' commencement speech at Stanford. I think it was 2009, and he talks about you can believe in karma, destiny, something, religion, and if as long as you have the confidence.
Yes, welcome back. You were speaking about as long as you're confident about then you can go for it.
Absolutely. So just being confident that this end goal, even if it, as Steve Jobs also said, leaves you down the well-worn path, all the dots are going to connect, and you might not even get it the first time, the second time, the third time, but eventually, things would materialize. And also realize that, you're in your own movie, you're in your own simulation. And if you were watching your own movie, things might not turn out like how you expected or you planned. But if you kind of imagine that the plot is going to end up a certain way, then it will happen over time.
Cool. I'm speaking now on behalf of Sasha, our other core team member, who always asks this question of, what was your happiest moment along your journey, Michael?
So I'm actually at a friend's place. We're just in a meeting at the moment to build this entire village or entire city of 42 hectares using these principles of unit. So we want to show how, on a very micro scale, 42 football fields, we would embody many of the principles of transparency, of open governance, and cooperative ownership or community ownership. So the idea that it's not just the founders who have 100% of the company, and then they give a little bit to investors, and then when it succeeds, the users are kind of squeezed for money so that the founders and the investors make money, deliver shareholder returns. We want to show how the future economy is one where, by us using Zoom, we benefit from some of the value being created. By posting to Instagram, you get some piece of Instagram's value created. And we imagine that this is going to happen for people. So like one development that we're excited to share during the course of this unit master's program is the idea of personal tokens. So, like for instance, I'm sure, many of us here have supported friends, and then some have become extremely successful, or some have really developed personally. Like we want to show how you can become, you won't just support friends because you believe in them, because they're your friends, but because you have the opportunity to do some work for them and support them, or give them some money, like invest in them, and then you become a stakeholder in them. And then you end up, what ends up happening with this cooperative economy is one where people are so invested in supporting one another that it moves from being a zero sum, like where if you benefit, then it's at the expense of me, to one where if you gain or benefit, then I'm able to capture some of that benefit too. Or I'm able to benefit from your success. And then hopefully, people used to worry about communicating. Like before the mobile phone, if I met one of you guys here, I would write down your phone number. I'll go, okay, I'm going to call you one of these days, and I'll call you up, and then hopefully you pick up at the same time. And then the mobile phone really solved that, like things, messaging apps and communication tools, like made it so easy to communicate. And like people, even in the crypto space, they don't see the potential of tokens. They don't see how this concept, like the blockchain, is really going to revolutionize how ideas and projects get funded, and alongside get funded, how they can grow, how they can scale up, and how if let's say I invested in a company, or anyone here invested in their friend's company, they don't have to hope that they win the lottery by becoming so big it goes on the stock exchange, or becoming so big that big company buys it over. Because in real time they can see, well, cool, look, if I wanted to sell some of my project in like some stake in my friend's project, I could sell a tiny bit and I could support another project. I could buy something else. So that's kind of, I guess, the thesis of what would Creative Unit. And it really is so early. So like, people are thinking now, like, it's too late. Bitcoin is so big, so high, or like the crypto space, like it's already a big bubble. It's going to like we're really, if this was a marathon, we haven't even passed the first like 5 kilometers. Like we're really at such an early stage. And I would highly recommend, like not necessarily investing in Unit or investing in technology, but just learning about it and trying to see how your next project can be built using a token. And then instead of raising traditional investment, or instead of paying for a project, like starting a business and paying for it themselves entirely, find a way for many potential customers or employees to either chip in a bit of money or do some work and share this ownership structure. And I think what we're going to find in the next few years is that projects that embody this cooperative ownership structure will do significantly better. And then projects like Zoom or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, which are owned by a relatively small group of people, are going to realize that, hey, we're going to have to move our model to one where all our customers and content creators get a piece of the value being created, or else we're just going to be outcompeted by projects which do that.
Desmond, you had a question. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Hi. Yes, hi, Michael. It's a privilege to be here with you, Michael. I've seen you transition over the last few years. For the benefit of everyone else, I do want to share that I'm just starting in this journey. Michael, I've had a couple of dialogues with him, and he's talked to me about blockchain. So for the benefit of everyone else, I'm a financial professional. I've been in the banking industry for about 20 years. And in a certain sense, what I know in the traditional banking and investment world is actually a hurdle, and it's blocking me into putting capital into both cryptocurrencies and blockchain investment opportunities, because I struggle with diligence and how I value it all. I wanted to ask you, actually, in fact, I'll turn the table around, and I would love to have your advice and maybe even your mentorship to help me kind of unpack, all of, and also to kind of remove my hurdles that I'm experiencing and facing. After 20 years of being in the traditional space, I do see that it's the next 20 years is exactly where you're at and where you're heading towards. And I would love to be able to be part of the journey. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks so much, Stefan. So Desmond's one of our advisors. He's like an Olympic swimmer, national swimmer for Singapore, and also super experienced in the finance world. So very grateful for you joining us, Desmond. In terms of the token and crypto space, like it really is so early in the sense that a lot of the tokens and cryptocurrencies which exist now, they might not even exist in 5 to 10 years, in the sense that the same as the internet bubble, like if you looked at .com companies like pets.com, you look at like all the companies that started between 1995 and the year 2000, there was so many people that were saying the internet's going to change the world. Even Google, they said, this internet thing, we're going to make like change the world, access to information. But then the problem was like Google only figured out how to be financially sustainable in 2003. So they started in 1997. For 6 years, they were like, oh my gosh, we have a lot of people using our search engine, but how are we ever going to pay the bills? They had to raise investor money, they had to figure it out. So it's really much very same phase for digital assets and cryptocurrencies. People used to say that internet companies, they don't need to make money. You just need more people using it. It doesn't need to be like have a business model, because it's the internet. The internet is different from a traditional business. People also said like, with real estate in 2007, as long as people are buying property, you don't have to worry about why the price keeps going up. You can just put money in real estate in 2007 and it will just keep going up. So we're really at a very similar stage in terms of tokens at the moment, where many of these cryptocurrencies or tokens, traditional investors look at it, institutional investors look at it, and they don't understand it because, typically when you buy a company or investment, you're buying an asset, you're buying like a land, you're buying cash, and then you're buying a multiple of the profit, so usually like you analyze a company, you look at what are the assets it has and what is a multiple of the profit it's making a year. And then the thing with tokens is there is no cash. It doesn't have like a company account typically, and it doesn't generate any profit. So like a lot of investors are going, this is ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. But I guess what's super interesting is that these, similar to internet companies, things like Amazon might have started and might have burned money for countless years, but it provided this foundation for an extremely profitable and value generating project. So the nice thing about something like Ethereum or Bitcoin or things like Uniswap, they might not generate profit or generate value the same way traditional companies do, but they're showing this model of cooperative ownership and showing how, for instance, the valuation can be much more liquid, the ownership can be much more distributed, it can operate in a much more transparent way. So I do highly recommend getting involved and learning about the space. And I guess that's why we have launched this master's program, to see how over a span of 6 weeks, we can best support people who are building in the industry and ecosystem. I think one thing people ask for.
I think it's frozen again. Is it Bali internet?
Let's give it a second for him to come back. And then if anybody else has questions, please write them in the chat. And then after we answer these questions, we go over to our little networking. So Michael will be there for the next sessions over the next 6 weeks too. So when we have other questions, we can still reach out to him.
Definitely. And hopefully we can do very regular AMAs with us and the us as the co-founders. And if anyone has any questions or ideas and ways that we can integrate or better govern Unit, I think that would be awesome. And if we could, we have a GitHub account where we're showing very transparently things from like how we make decisions to our finances to like our roadmap to our core team. So we want to show how the future of organizations and projects have radical transparency. And if someone's working on a similar project, they can look at how we do things and maybe use some of the concepts and involve in their projects. And hopefully, it becomes a very collaborative and cooperative economy. And I guess the thesis is that we believe that this model of not just doing business, but organization is going to be far more successful than the traditional way of governing and raising financing as well as distributing value. And I believe that we're on a good path there. Grateful for everyone here.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks.
Cool. So maybe we move on to our networking session. which goes in the following way. We will divide you, or whoever wants to join, into small breakout rooms. And we have 15 minutes of getting to know each other. The way we can facilitate this is you can share who you are, what interests you. There is typically 3 questions that I find most helpful when I reflect about also the content being heard from the speaker sessions. One is like, what did I learn actually from a topic point of view, from a content point of view? The second question might be, what did I learn about the speaker? How did I understood him or her to see the landscape? And the third one, and I think this is most profound in terms of personal growth and, learning very fast, is in which way did I resonate with what I heard today, and where do I really have question marks? And you can pick any of these to share in your groups, or share about anything else you feel like you want to speak about when it's your time to share in your group. And I think after 15 minutes, I will just close the room, and then we come back for a final minute of summary. And then on Thursday, what we're doing is we're having a second speaker who's been in the field with Ethereum since 2014. So also another person who's been very deeply involved in the blockchain space. So whatever questions, you had that Michael didn't address today because you didn't ask the question. Next speaker session, next opportunity to ask that question. So let me pull up the breakout rooms. I try to put 4 participants in one room. If you're only 3 and nobody joins, that's fine too. You can just get started. And just to get a quick start, let's have the first person sharing who is living closest to Bali. Maybe before we wrap up, is there anything anybody wants to share what they got out of the breakout rooms? Any new insights? Maybe just hear 1 or 2 voices. It would be really cool to hear how it resonates with you and what we're going to learn going forward on Thursday, or how you want to, change your learning journey.
Well, I think our group realized that there are many, many countries, probably the majority of countries, where both the individuals and by structure, something like unity is not possible. In that the legislation's against it, or the political system is against it, and that's something which I don't know how we address that.
I suppose it's an evolving situation, and we need to look at countries for what they are at the moment and what they're standing for. There is a very much like a progress being made in the adoption of cryptocurrency. So there are certainly at any time countries coming on board and becoming a lot more open to the adoption of the opening up of the regulations. So yeah, it is, as Michael mentioned before, it's very early days, but we do need to stay aware of like these constraints that are in place in certain countries. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, cool. So we see you again on Thursday for the live speaker sessions. You can still invite your friends to join. It's only the first week. I hope you also enjoyed the pre-recorded content that we have put together for you as the unit masters exercises. And anything else, let us know in the Telegram chat. You can always reach out to Petra, myself, or any other core team members to get you onboarded or give you access to whatever you need. With that said, happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. See you.
Thank you.
Happy Tuesday, guys.
Hey,
thank you.
Happy Tuesday. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.